We will call the June 9th, 2015 Caroline County Board of Supervisors meeting to order. Board members present, Mr. Floyd Thomas, representing the Mattapanna District, Mr. Jeff Black, representing the Western District, Mr. Reggie Underwood, representing the Reedy Church District, Mr. Wayne Akers, representing the Madison District, and Mr. Jeff Seeley, representing the Bowling Green District, and I'm Calvin Taylor, representing the Port Royal District. At this time, we would ask Mr. Black to lead us in the invocation, followed by the pledge.
All rise, please. Dear God, as we come here and meet tonight, we ask for your knowledge to help us do the best for this county. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are there any amendments to the agenda?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I do believe the update on the Belmont Professional Village project has been a conflict, and they have requested that we reschedule that.
Okay. All right, so we will remove that. Any other amendments to the agenda? If not, the agenda will stand approved as presented with the addition. That takes us to opening board comments. Mr. Thomas, do you have any at this time?
The only opening board comment I would have, Mr. Chairman, would be to welcome back Mrs. Hall and say that we weren't the same without her, and we're glad to have her back. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Black?
Yeah, I do have kind of a big opening board comment, Mr. Chairman. Last night I got a text message from the County Attorney, Ann Neal Cosby, in regards to the Aqua surcharge case. That was the one where Aqua was trying to put a 10% increase in addition to people's bills for capital costs. The hearing examiner made a recommendation to the commissioner for complete denial of the surcharge. And I think that's one of the first times that Aqua has actually been told no by the commission. So hopefully that's a precedent that's going to keep on moving in the right direction. Later on here, in about a half hour, you're going to hear from a gentleman who's actually directly affected by some issues with Aqua. But I do want to, thank, there were several people that were involved in that. I mean, there was a lot of county staff and time that was put into that case. Mr. Fincham's office for drawing maps, Mr. Cully, Mr. Parton, Ms. Hall for sending out resolutions and lots of resolutions to different counties. Obviously, Ann Neal, I think she was spearheaded that. It would be remiss if I didn't mention some of the landowner residents that helped kind of look up HOAs around the state that are served by Aqua. Mr. Famera, obviously Mr. Maida, Mr. Fulham, Mr. Williams, Nancy Kennedy, and George Spinner, I don't think is here tonight, so he also helped out on that. So I just kind of wanted to thank the other counties that also joined with Caroline in this fight against Aqua. We still have not heard on the rate case yet, but this is a step in the right direction, and of course the commission makes the final say, but the hearing examiner did recommend complete and total denial of the surcharge. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Black. Mr. Underwood?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I only have one comment. On Thursday, June the 11th, I have a Reedy Church community meeting at 6:30 at the Dawn Progressive Center. Certainly everyone is welcome, where we'll be talking about the budget, some community issues regarding recreation, academic support for students, and need for volunteers within the community in the upcoming 2015 election. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Akers?
No, I have a comment.
Mr. Seeley?
I just want to remind everybody that this Saturday is the John Cephas concert in Bowling Green. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Seeley. I would just like to add a couple of comments. Mr. Akers, myself, as well as the Economic Development Director and the Assistant County Administrator, had the privilege of going to Washington last week. We were able to meet with Senator Kane as well as the the staff persons of Senator Mark Warner. We feel like it was a very good meeting. We talked about AP Hill and the payment in lieu of taxes and trying to maybe do something to rectify that situation since AP Hill covers so much of our county. We were able to talk about some other things as well, but I guess the main thing is we were able to, as I said, meet with Senator Kane and the staff of Senator Mark Warner, and it's just good to keep those communication lines open. And so I would like to thank staff for getting that meeting set up, and I think it was successful. The only other thing is from what I can understand, we have a new school superintendent as of July 1, Dr. Parker, I believe, from the Virginia Beach area. So we're certainly looking forward to a good relationship and working together with the school board to try and give the students of this county the best quality education that we can. Having said that, that takes us to presentations and reports. The first agenda item is recognition of Taylor Hicks for achievement at the Virginia Utilities Locate Rodeo Competition. At this time, I would like to read a resolution that was prepared, and it says, a resolution commending Taylor Hicks for his accomplishments in representing Caroline County at the Virginia Utility Locate Rodeo. Whereas Taylor Hicks, a utility mechanic with the Department of Public Utilities, finished second in the Buried Treasure competition of the American Water Works Association Virginia Chapter Rodeo in Patriot Park in Spotsylvania County. And whereas the Utility Rodeo provides various utility-related competitive events in which participants compete against fellow utility personnel in a demonstration of skills, speed, and safety. And whereas the Buried Treasure competition, the Continent Use Traditional Locating Equipment has 5 minutes to trace a conduit, mark the facility with flags, then measure and record the location with the most accurate, declared the winner. And whereas Mr. Hicks finished second in the state in the Buried Treasure contest and was narrowly defeated for first place by a mere 1 1/2 inches. And whereas Mr. Hicks' skills and accomplishments in this statewide competition are very impressive and have brought credit and recognition to Caroline County. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Caroline County Board of Supervisors hereby congratulates and commends Taylor Hicks for a job well done and extend this best wishes for continued success in the future. Adopted this 9th day of June, 2015, and is signed by the clerk of the board and the chairman of the board. At this time, if Mr. Taylor Hicks would come forward. We're going to take pictures. So this one we took on.
Yeah, second.
Okay, this takes us to the update on Caroline High School and Madison Elementary School construction projects. Mr. George Spoiler. Thank you, Mr. Spoiler.
Good evening, gentlemen. George Spalding, Bowling Green. I have good news tonight and I have bad news. So what you want from ours? No, we'll get the good news first. I've got this written out for me real good, and it's in bold types, so I can read it without my specs. But anyway, the settlement was agreed to the contractor in Bowling Green Elementary School for 2 years, maybe longer. Seemed like it's been an eternity. We've been fighting with them over that floor, and if you go in there now, they started this week and going like crazy, and it looks great. So we finally got that straightened out. The epoxy terrazzo floors will be completed by July the 15th. That's way before the teachers get back and so forth. Polished and the whole bit. If you get a chance, go by there and look at them. They really look good. And they almost match the old floor that was in there. That's the ironic thing, you know, because that old floor has been there quite a while. Caroline High School, last night we voted for a contract with Southwood Builders in Ashland on the amount of not to exceed $18.3 million. OWPR and Caroline Public Schools are evaluating VE terms proposed by Southwood. Even with acceptance of these items, the integrity of the project remains in place. We will recognize at least an additional, or realize at least additional, $200,000 in savings by utilizing owner direct purchasing of some materials and equipment. The savings are realized by not having to pay 5.3% sales tax on these materials and equipment purchased directly by Caroline Public Schools. And it's anticipated that the DEQ submission will be approved by around July the 1st. And then we can get right on it. The other good news is we appointed a new superintendent last night, and I think he's going to be a gentleman that we can all work with. He's real enthusiastic, and so next time he comes up, we'll come around and beat people, okay? Now for the bad news. The low bid for Madison, we're talking about now, was Haley Construction in the amount of $4,299,000. OWPR requested that Haley provide VE suggestion to reduce the cost by 4.5%. No VE items were provided. Because of this, we, the school board, voted to reject all bids for exceeding available funds of what we had to use. The project will be advertised for 10 days with some cost modifications. New bids will be presented to the school board on June the 23rd, and we're anticipating the DEQ submission will be approved on or around June the 20th.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And correct me if I'm wrong, how much did we allow for Madison for the refurbishing of that school? And the reason I asked, I know
it was close to $4 million.
Okay, because I know we had borrowed. It was $25 million.
Right.
And my thoughts were it was $20 million for the high school and $5 million for.
No.
21. It was 21 and 4. Okay.
21 and 4.
Okay. Okay. Any other?
So you see, they're not too far off there.
Okay. Board members have other questions, Mr. Thomas?
Mr. Spalding, I didn't get the right first number. The high school was 18.3 million, you said?
Right, 18.3.
18.3.
We were working with 19. and
Okay.
it Came in 18.3.
And you subtracted the architect's fee,
Yeah.
and you subtracted
Yeah.
the Honeywell purchase from the original 25?
We did, yes.
Original 21.
Well, the architect's fee had to come from both sides. So
Yeah, but they should be broken out separately.
that's
elementary
where I
school
was
and
going.
high- Oh,
Is-
okay.
Is the architect's fee is like 1.5 so far? Million? That's his,
2.
1.2 million is his fee.
Yeah.
And his fee is on the high school and Madison.
Correct.
Okay. So then we're at 22.6. 6? 4.3, 299. So, okay. All righty, thank you very much. And you said you finally have this school straight. I have to figure out where I was. You
Yeah.
finally have this school straight, which is the
Exactly.
old bowling, or the new bowling.
They come in with working on the smaller things, on the punch list, and getting those straight and so forth. But the big item was the floor.
Right.
We were not going to accept those floors if it's doomsday. We already told them that. And they weren't going to be paid until that particular time.
And you held out, like I think you said it was $1 million or 900,000. So the contractor is going to get that million now.
No, it's not. No, it's not that much.
Is there money left over from that project?
Not when we get through, it won't be any.
The county attorney, the county administrator says he's already been paid.
Didn't we pay him a certain amount
You
just recently of that?
you
holdback?
paid them. You're right. You paid them what? 2/3.
800,000. Does that sound right?
So do we have $1 million or not?
Not anymore.
No, we do not. The
No.
balance that's left is 800 and some odd thousand. The settlement is for the exact same amount.
Oh, so it'll come out a wash.
Yes.
I thought we were doing I thought you were doing mitigated damages and things like that, or you decided not to?
Right. Well, look at it this way. We would have been in with lawyers, courts, and so forth, and we decided it wasn't worth it. I mean, that part of it, because you know how that goes. The lawyers sit back and just go for it. And
Yeah, we know how those lawyers are, don't we?
Okay. Any other questions?
That was it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Black, do you have questions?
I have a question in not regards to the capital. It's about the money. Am I allowed to ask him that? I know you guys we had talked about the savings, and you guys were discussing money to turn back over to the county. How close are you guys to finalizing that number?
that won't be till the end of the month. That's what our, what day is it? 23rd? End of the month when we close out. Then we'll know exactly how much we have.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Underwood?
No, sir, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Akers?
I just, Mr. Spaulding, we were talking about the numbers, 18.3 and roughly 4.3 for the Madison School. And you've already spent, it appears, $1.3 million, in excess of $1.3 million between the high school and the Madison elementary school renovations at this point. And those numbers add up to about 23.9. And we had 25 million allocated for the two projects. That is correct? We said earlier,
Right.
4 and 21.
They spent $1 million on the Honeywell project.
Huh?
They spent $1 million on the Honeywell controls.
But is that included in these numbers here?
21 and 4, that's what we, 4 for Madison and 21 for the high school.
Right. But the $1 million that Mr. Thomas is speaking about, the Honeywell controls, that is in the 18, or is that in addition to the 18?
What was that?
I'm sorry?
Addition.
Addition.
And the number is $1
So that's
million.
24.9, so you're right at that $1 million, I'm at that $25 million number.
I think it's $1 million too.
And what other equipment do you have to buy for either of these schools that you had originally projected in the 25 million that's not going to be able to be purchased, if any? Nothing. Okay.
Everything we said we were going to do in the bond referendum.
Right.
Everything you said you were going to do, you're going to be able to do within these numbers here.
See, one thing, we reduced the size of the gym. That saved quite a bit. And we're trying to get everything that we asked for. And if it's...
That's good. And that's what I was hoping that we would be able to do, because,
Right.
when we sold this project to
Right.
the citizens of this county, we told them what they were going to get for the $25 million that they
Exactly.
were voting to approve. And it was bothering me from the standpoint, I heard maybe 2 weeks ago, something that one of the projects came in $1 million over budget. This may have been a month ago. And I was just concerned that we were going to have to diminish the project in order to bring it within the budget.
Mhm.
And I'm glad to hear that that's not being done.
No.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Mrs. Sealy?
I have none, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, and I have none at this time. Thank you, Mr.
Mr.
Sporer.
Chairman?
No, I'm not through.
Mr.
Oh,
Chairman,
I'm sorry. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, before you let him go, the actual number for the Honeywell controls was 1.2?
What was it?
1.2 million?
1.2.
Okay, and they said that was not part of
The
any
25.
numbers? Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, the 18. I'm sorry.
The rest of the bad news.
Okay.
There's more?
We lost last night one of our best administrators going up the road about 20 miles from here because they pay more. And, I've talked to you gentlemen, and we've talked to the board and so forth about we've got to give our administrators a raise. We cannot keep good people. We're almost like University of Kentucky, one and done. We train them, they leave. After a couple of years, they're gone. And you can't blame them. But we hate to lose good people. And we lost one of the best ones we had to Spotsylvania last night. So, food for thought.
Which one did we lose, Mr. Sporer?
Mr. Blako.
Blake at
Okay.
Madison.
Okay.
He turned that school around.
Okay.
So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sporer. Okay, that takes us to our next agenda item, which is appointments. Building Code of Appeals for the Western Carolina District. Do you have an appointment for that position, Mr. Black?
Yes, sir, I do, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
The gentleman's like to nominate Mr. Kevin McGuire to that position.
I will second that.
Okay, it's been moved and properly second that we would appoint Mr. Kevin McGuire to the Building Code Board of Appeals to represent the Western Carolina District. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carries unanimously. That takes us to the consent agenda, items A through F. Are there any items on the consent agenda that any board member would like to pull?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
I would like to pull letters D and E, please.
Did you say B?
D.
D and E?
D and E, yes.
Okay. We can entertain a motion to approve A, B, C, and F as presented.
So moved, Mr. Chairman. Second.
Okay, so moved and properly second that we would approve consent agenda items A, B, C, and F as presented. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Okay, agenda item D, approval of resolution requesting an amendment to Selection 15.2-901 of the Code of Virginia to allow enforcement of tall weeds and grass ordinance in agricultural zoning district. You have a question or a comment, Mr. Black?
Yeah, I just have a concern about the ordinance, and I mean, I know, I appreciate Mr. Fincham's office trying to put something, we had said at last meeting that we want an ordinance put together for the tall grass, which, I mean, obviously is we're talking about a particular property that's in my district. I guess in reading the ordinance, the only thing, because it says if you're in the, basically the rural, rural preservation area, and you can enforce it if you're next to a business or a subdivision. My concern is, and I think we've talked about this, my concern is if you take, for example, Ladysmith Road going from the Spotsylvania County line all the way down here to 301. My concern is there are houses along that road, like as soon as you cross the line from Spotsylvania into basically the Western Carolina District, that aren't in a subdivision, that aren't next to a business, and I'm just thinking those people generally, they could, I mean, it's on a major thoroughfare. From reading this ordinance, so if someone decided in one of those houses along those road, and those houses are fairly close together, that if it was a foreclosure and the bank didn't cut that grass and it ended up being a year's worth of growth, this ordinance would not cover that. Is that correct?
That's correct.
See, I mean, and that's the concern. That's the concern I have, because those are in an RRP zone, and the neighbors in a situation like that would probably not be very happy that grass has not been cut for over a year. And I want to make sure in something like this, I understand we can't cut every, but what I'm saying is, like on major thoroughfares going through the county, you know, something like that would fall through this loophole. So is there a way, I was wondering if there's a way that we could, you know, table this and, you know, figure out a way to bring this back. I mean, I understand it covers, I understand the current ordinance would cover the property that I'm concerned about right now. I'm just saying for other properties, if you go up and down Ladysmith Road, go from Western Carolina, Madison to Mappapani District, other properties would be exempt for that because they don't butt up to a business or, you know, a subdivision.
Yes, sir. We could give you some more options for the next meeting.
Is that good?
That's fine.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
you have another question?
Yeah.
I guess my question has to do with, and maybe the attorney needs to help us out a little bit here, as to what this new ordinance that we're talking about putting in place now, what is that going to give us that what we do not currently have? Because it was my understanding after the last meeting that, Mr. Emerson, you indicated that we had the ability to, let's say, cut the grass and file a lien.
That was Ann.
We don't.
That was Ann that was here last.
Oh, it was
night.
Ann, okay, that's right. It was Ann that said, had read it and said that it was.
We don't have the ability to
Okay.
cut the grass in an agricultural area.
Okay.
We do have the ability to place a lien on a property for those properties that we are authorized to cut grass if the owner does
But I
not.
was under the impression that she'd indicated, because she looked at something and said that.
That's when she said it was a tax lien. We could do a
Yeah,
tax
tax
lien.
lien, right.
You still can't do it in an agricultural, on property that is zoned agriculture, which was the
So that-
issue at hand.
But we
That was
do-
bad information we had last time, because it
No, it
was
was two
certain
different
said.
things. It was two different things.
It's two different issues.
On the one that I had, as a specific example was a property that was abandoned, the bank owned, and we have cut the grass for 3 straight years. So if it was a real tax lien, after the 3rd year, if the bank didn't pay us, we could sell the property to recoup the money we invested.
Okay. I'm sorry, I was under the impression that we could, we had the ability to do it now. And I just
RP
wasn't
is-
sure what this could do.
But I
Okay.
think it's not in an RP district.
Right.
That's
Yeah,
where the issue
no,
is.
I understand.
And this, Mr. Akers, this ordinance has to go in front of the General Assembly anyway.
Right, right, it's just a resolution.
Right, right, yes.
Okay, sorry.
But you still want to send a resolution with more
Yeah,
options?
I mean, because I want to be able to cover, because, I mean, in your district and every other district, I mean, there would be a lot of houses that would be loopholes in this situation. So I just would like to see if we can close that loophole.
Yes, sir, we can bring some additional language back for your next meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, agenda item E.
I just had one question, and I know this is Mr. Thomas's, and it says here that we have to, in reading this, we have to determine whether a violation exists. I guess my question is, why are we determining if a violation exists? I mean, I guess that's the bigger picture question. Why do we, I mean, if
That's
there's
the
a law in
language.
place, then
Right.
it's not, we're not supposed to determine whether there, I mean, shouldn't there be another entity that is determining that?
That's the way the property maintenance code is written, Mr. Black. The board has to make the finding or the determination and then set the date by which the vehicles are to be removed, which is the whole purpose of this memo tonight.
So anytime there's a violation, we have to determine we have to determine whether the violation exists?
Under this statute, yes, sir.
But we
And actually, we are proposing some modifications to the property maintenance code that I hope to have for your next meeting as well, that we could change this.
That would allow your
Yes, sir.
staff to determine?
Yes, sir.
I mean, because that seems...
Or the county administrator, with the approval of the county administrator. Yes, sir.
Okay.
So when we say we being the staff, have to determine?
Right now, it's the Board of Supervisors has to make that determination or the finding and establish the date by which this is to be corrected. Once you do that and they fail to, if the individual fails to comply, then we can go have the vehicles removed.
Okay. But we are still working on this one as well.
Now, this one's fine. This one's ready to go forward. We are working on some modifications to the actual property maintenance code to discuss with the board at a future meeting.
Okay.
This one's fine.
Okay. So E is ready to be adopted if the board is.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Mr. Seeley has a question, and then Mr. Thomas.
And I guess my question, Mr. Finchman, is in looking at these pictures, I see that there's antique plates on these vehicles, I believe. And do they not run? And do they have to have county stickers?
County stickers, no. They do have to be in an operable condition. Yes, sir. They have to be able.
And how do we know that they are or aren't?
There are other vehicles as well that fail to comply with the statute. We have a number of vehicles on that site that we have issues with.
Because, I mean, these look like they must move because they're mowed around. I mean, nobody weed eats under a vehicle.
No.
That's why I was curious, because the picture looks pretty clean that I've got. Both pictures that we have are very clean, very...
This is the most recent set of pictures, and yes, there has been some grass cutting that occurred.
Right.
But we do have the list of vehicles, yes, sir.
You want to see a picture of that I took on my phone 2 weeks ago? It looks exactly like that.
I guess my question is, who determines if they run or not? Do they have to do something? I'm just trying to understand what the process is.
Yes, sir. They would have to demonstrate that the vehicles are in operating condition and are drivable. There are vehicles that are not properly tagged or licensed, which by definition are a violation and can be removed.
And they have to remove them, not us?
No, we would remove them, and then they would be charged for that removal.
What we have is a public health and safety issue, because these cars do not move. They are leaking oil and antifreeze, and the neighbor's well is 50 feet downhill. So I've been very patient, but this has been going on for over a year.
I'm just asking because I was just curious who has to move them and who has to pay for it.
I think Commissioner Revenue has been involved in this. Mr. Fincham's been involved in this for over a year, and I mean, you got town water, but you don't know what it's like when you got a well and there's oil leaking right next to your well. So we've given him ample opportunity to move the cars. This is a person who had the same business in Spotsylvania and just drove his cars down here or towed them down here and left them. So I think the safety in Caroline's is important as the safety in Spotsylvania.
Okay. Mr. Fincham, you said some of the vehicles here are not tagged properly, are in violation.
Yes, sir.
Already?
Yes, sir.
Then I guess my first question is, why are we not enforcing?
That's what we're doing. That's why we're here, to have those removed.
Okay. Just want to be clear.
A motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and proper second that we approve agenda item E as presented. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Okay. Unofficial business, agenda item 6, cost estimate to repair former frog level. Well, it's not.
It's 7:30.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize it was 7:30.
Right, that's when you have it.
Okay, it is now 7:30. It's time for public comment. Any citizen who has a item that or an issue that they would like to discuss with the board or bring to the board's attention that is not a public hearing or on the agenda for discussion later, you may come forward at this time. We ask that you keep your comments to 3 minutes and that you respond to the entire board, not individual board members. Okay, so I will open the public comment section of the meeting at this time, and you may come forward and state your name and your district if it's applicable.
Yes, my name is Dr. Hans Mumm. Good evening, board members, ladies and gentlemen.
Good evening, sir.
I'm in the Lake Landor area, and what I would like to address this evening very quickly is issues with Aqua Virginia. I would like to be able to bring to the board, sir. I've made for the board some copies of some issues that I've had. I've owned this property for over 7 years, and in 7 years I've never had 1 year yet. I haven't even had a quarter yet without sewer backups. Last time I have 3 sewer backups this year alone. My last one was $12,000. My insurance company is ready to drop me because Aqua Virginia, although the last one they took 100% responsibility for, they refused to pay 100% of the cost. So my insurance company is ready to drop me. My mortgage company has told me that it's $1,500 forced insurance in order to do this. So we're looking at another foreclosure property because I'm not going to be able to afford $1,500 a month in insurance because Aqua Virginia refuses to do what they're supposed to do. I have attempted for over 7 years to work with them. I have gone through district managers with them. I have replaced every single pipe in my house twice. I've replaced toilets twice. I've replaced almost every fixture twice because they either blow out or they get so full of sewage that you can't use them. I've had to have my HVAC system done. That was part of that $12,000 that was just done. I've now gotten to the point where I went down to the HOA board a few weeks ago. I addressed them, and I am starting to talk, looking at the different ideas of class action lawsuits in order to break this monopoly, in order to do something. I cannot sell my property at this point. Nobody is going to buy a property that backs up with sewage every quarter with a water and sewer company that's jacking up rates every 2 seconds and refuses to do what they're supposed to do. I am currently speaking with Shannon Becker, and we're going to see what happens. But keep in mind, that was a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, and I still haven't seen any real action on Aqua's part. I just need the board to understand the situation is not getting any better, and I'm going to probably be back asking for some relief, some assistance, or looking at whether you folks want to join me in a class action lawsuit to break this monopoly. Does anybody have any questions for me?
Well, we need to go through the public hearing, and then
Perfect.
if board members have
Excellent.
questions, we can
Thank
do
you.
it at that time. Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else who would like to speak during public comment? Is there anyone else who would like to address the board at this time? Is there anyone else who would like to address the board at this time? Seeing no one with the intention to speak, we will close the public comment section of the meeting. I guess the one question that I would have would be for our attorney. Yes. Okay, well, I've closed I asked if there was anyone who wanted to speak, and nobody came forward. Okay, all right, okay. Oh, okay, you're here for the public hearing, and you'll get an opportunity to do that. Okay. All right. The question that I would have is, the gentleman was talking about the issue with his property and how it involves Aqua and what obviously they're not doing. I guess my question is, what is the board legally, what authority does the board have to address the issue that he's talking about?
Mr. Chairman, I mean, we'd need more information to try to find some way to assist with that, but off the top of my head, it sounds like a private matter that the county wouldn't have any standing. I mean, possibly we could find something if we knew more about it, more facts, but it's basically a private dispute.
Okay. All right. And I guess what my reason for asking that question is, I don't want any citizen to come before the board with a legitimate concern and we act as though, we don't care or that we are not in sympathy with what's going on. But I don't want to give false information or false hope. Certainly as a board, we are concerned about every citizen that we have. And we want all citizens to have a good quality of life, and we would like for all entities to do their jobs. But I guess my point is, I don't know, and that's why I asked that question, I don't know what authority the board has to intervene in a situation like this. And again, I don't want to give the impression that we don't care or that we are not in sympathy with what you're going through. But at the same time, I don't want to say to you, we're going to do A, B, C, and D to address your issue, and I know we don't have the authority to do that.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Can I make a suggestion that before we decide that we're going to say no or whatever the case may be, that we have county staff look over the information that Dr. Mumm has just provided? I know Dr. Mumm's case is, obviously this is one of the more extreme cases I've heard, but this is not the only case in Lake Landor or entities served by Aqua Virginia where stuff like this happens. And it is, when we talk about, we got into the debate last week, this is why we spend the money. This is why we spent the money on the lawyers for the surcharge case. This is why we spent the money on the lawyers for the rate case. And yes, it is a private water company, but these are citizens. This is not a polling place. This involves water that people have to drink. It involves sewage that people have to deal with. This is about a health hazard. So if there is a way that we could possibly figure out to help Dr. Mumm, I think that we need to investigate that before we turn around and say, no, this is people's health and safety.
And again, I'm certainly not saying that. What I'm saying is that I have no problem, or the board can certainly direct staff to address the issue in any way that we can. That's a board decision.
I have a suggestion.
But as far as presenting the information to staff and having staff look at it to see what, if any, action the board can take to help to address that, I don't think the board has any problem with that. I just don't want to give the impression that we have control where we don't.
Okay.
Okay. Mr. Seeley?
What may be advantageous is to figure out how many folks are involved and to have Mr. Schiebel take a look and figure out. There must be, Mr. Schiebel, I'm not asking you to give me any answers tonight, but there must be a root cause to make this happen. And a board resolution from us to Aqua that the folks in there that are affected can stand on is the first step, because the rate cases and the surcharge isn't going to go away, and you have to start somewhere building a case against this. And I think a very strongly worded with some sort of root cause issues, Mr. Schiebel, if there's anything we can figure out, would help begin this path or continue where they're stuck, because I think a letter or resolution from us would go a long ways. And I think once we do that, you send that to other communities, they may have similar issues other places, and it may give other people ideas of what they can do. So my first suggestion is to see if staff can root some stuff out of all of his documentation, come up with something that would give us a resolution that could actually be looked at by us. We can make some suggestions and actually pass a resolution that would give Dr. Mumm the next step over the hurdle that may be in his way now, and see if we can't figure out who else in Lake Landor and if there's anybody else in these other communities that has the same issue. That's my suggestion.
And again, as I said before, staff can certainly address this, look at this documented information that we have, and then make a determination from that point. If a resolution is in order, we can certainly do that and do what we can do. I just want to make sure that we are able to do something before I say we can do something.
And